Can you believe it? Well, let's talk about Donald Trump, because according to the news headlines, Donald Trump has dropped an absolute clanger. He said that there will be a bloodbath if he loses the election. He says in the Ohio campaign rally, he said there will be a bloodbath if he loses again. We've got The Guardian here saying he predicts a bloodbath if he loses. And indeed, we have NBC and other left-leaning channels talking about a bloodbath. Clearly, the implication is that Donald Trump is trying to evoke the spirit of the January the 6th riots. He's back to his old tricks again, talking about a bloodbath. It's completely inappropriate, but of course words do matter. Let's see what he was actually referring to when he made this comment. Let's see the clip.
If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. Now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories.
Point of fact, he's talking about it being a bloodbath for the economy. He's not talking about a bloodbath in general. So, I mean, like or loathe Trump, and many people like him and many people loathe him, let's at least quote him accurately if we're going to be covering this election campaign. I mean, we've only got goodness knows how many more months of this, which leads me nicely into our next segment, because I'm delighted to be joined now by the mystery man of the hour, Nigel Farage. Now, Nigel, I've been drafted in to replace you in your absence. You must tell us all, please, where on earth are you and what on earth are you doing?
Well, first things first, Camilla, thank you for coming in at very short notice. I had hoped to broadcast the show today, but when the 45th president of the United States, and maybe, if you believe the polls, the 47th president of the US, says come to Mar-a-Lago and do a big sit-down exclusive interview, the answer is that we should do it. So we did it, and we've just been with him, and I got back just a few minutes ago. And you won't be surprised to hear that, of course, bloodbath was discussed. And you were quite right a moment ago. The context was clear. It was all about the American car industry. It was all about the American economy. And yet the media, and by the way, not just the American media, quite large segments of the UK media have completely and utterly dishonestly misinterpreted those comments and their context. I also talked to him about Prince Harry and Meghan, of course, you know, Harry being one of our latest exports to the USA. I have a feeling that if he becomes president, there'll be a re-examination of what Harry said on his visa forms. Did he admit to taking LSD-style mushrooms? Did he admit to taking cocaine and cannabis? Because if he did, well, he should not have had an American visa. So maybe some very tough times for Prince Harry coming up, you know, if Trump gets back on November the 7th. And the polls in the swing states suggest that he's doing incredibly well. We also talked about the remarkable demographic change that is taking place here. Trump's support amongst the black voters has more than doubled, in fact, almost trebled since the last election back in 2020. The same thing's emerging with the Hispanics. But the biggest part of the interview, Camilla, and this is really important, I think, for the world, is I have got an absolutely definitive answer from Trump about what his policy would be as regards NATO and whether America would come and protect those countries like Estonia or Poland if Russia was to invade. And I'm going to keep that one back for tomorrow, if I may, but it is a very important answer.
I mean, the journalist in me, of course, wants you to give me every cough and spit of this interview, but we're going to have to wait until tomorrow. So we're going to air this on GB News tomorrow night, 7 p.m. as normal. It's going to be in your show and take up, I would imagine, Nigel, the whole show. I mean, in general, how did he seem? What's his mood? How confident is he of winning?
Quite extraordinary. I mean, given the amount of his time that has been taken up with lawyers and with endless court cases and massive fines being issued from New York, incidentally, on the basis that Mar-a-Lago was valued at $18 million. I mean, I should think that the front entrance is worth more than that. Despite everything, he is astonishingly resilient. He weighs quite a bit less than he did back in 2020. He looks leaner. He looks fitter. He genuinely looks very, very well. He's very confident that he will win on November the 5th, the date of the general election here. I tell you what, he's in very good heart. He's in very good humour. He told a couple of anecdotes about conversations with our late beloved Queen. I think you'll find the interview is very, very wide-ranging indeed. But yeah, there's no question his confidence is incredibly high.
And finally, Nigel, were any conditions placed upon you with regard to questions? I mean, often you get told you can't ask this, you can't ask that, or was it pretty free rein?
No, there were no conditions placed on the interview whatsoever, other than they said, look, he's busy, he's got a lot going on, can we make it 30 minutes? I think in total it was about 33. So, I kept to my part of the deal as well. There was no sort of Piers Morgan style histrionics where Morgan went on for an hour and 20 minutes and Trump at the end said enough. No, both sides. Unbelievable what Morgan did. No wonder he's gone and Talk TV with it. Listen, all of it very, very good. He was also, I must tell you, very excited to hear about how GB News is doing. The fastest growing news website in the UK for the last 10 months of the year. And is it any wonder that Ofcom are on our case? Is it any wonder that Sky News have obsessed all day about GB News? We're doing well. He knows that. And I promise you, those other broadcasters will not get any sit-downs with him whatsoever.
Fair enough. On Ofcom, Nigel, what's your reaction to the decisions that they made today and announced?
Well, I just feel that Ofcom are becoming overtly political. I think that's because of the pressures that have been put upon them by the established media and indeed by segments of our political class. GB News is posing a threat to the other broadcasters, a challenge to British politics. And when you're there and you're part of a status quo, the one thing you do not want is a new boy coming along and challenging your position. That's exactly what we're doing. And you can see the growth of this channel over the last few months. You can see the increased influence that it's having. And unsurprisingly, they don't like it. Ofcom are responding to pressure. But what I do know is that GB News are going to fight like hell.
Indeed so. All right, Nigel, look, stay safe out there. Safe journey back. And we very much look forward to your interview with Donald Trump at 7 p.m. tomorrow. Thank you very much for joining me this evening. Well, there you have it. Look, it's being advertised there. And if you can't see, it's tomorrow at 7 p.m. The whole interview in full. See Nigel chat to Donald Trump about a wide range of issues. I mean, he's also been speaking about Harry and Meghan, which may make a headline tomorrow. Who knows? But do please stay tuned for that tomorrow.